Hey gang, it's Platt here, and I'm back for another home brewing experiment. Recently I was on YouTube looking at various videos, and if you subscribe to the channel, some of their videos will get suggested to you. And recently one of my favorite channels to watch is one called Basic Brewing. If you're really into home brewing, check out that channel. Anyway, they had done a couple videos on brewing with breakfast cereals. I believe they did a stout with a Count Chocula, which makes sense. The chocolate malt's the chocolate cereal. I want to say they used blueberry in a wheat beer or saison, something like that. And they had a couple other videos. Got me interested in the subject. I started doing a little research, studying, and I found that several people had used corn flakes, which makes a lot of sense because corn is a adjunct used in a lot of big commercial beers. You've probably seen the Bud Light commercials where they kind of harp on Miller and Coors for using corn syrup. What Bud Light doesn't tell you is their other Anheuser-Busch products use corn syrup too, but that's for another rant. But anyway, corn is used in the production of beer. So I thought, well, that would be great because it makes for a great adjunct. It boosts the alcohol a little bit, and it contributes to the body of the beer. So I thought, let's get some corn flakes and try this out. I actually went with the frosted flakes because they're coated with sugar, even more of a bump to our ABV. This particular brand of frosted flakes, no artificial flavors or colors, so we're dodging anything artificial. Reading the label, the sugar coating on the frosted flakes is actually from a corn syrup or corn base, so we're getting even more of that corn into our beer. How I plan to attack this, the way the other brewers would use this is they would brew a beer where they do a partial mash. They would take some of the specialty grains, a little bit of the cereal, kind of create like a beer soup or green soup, and then they would add their base malt of either malt extract or like two-row barley, depending on the beer they were using. What I'm going to use as a base is actually one of these Mr. Beer Classic American Light can hopped malt extract cans. I'm doing this for a couple of reasons. A, my roommate found a deal on a bottle of them. We've got several to use, so I thought, well, what the heck, I'll use them. Also, though, part of the reason is I know I've used this product before. If you've never used Mr. Beer before, I will throw a link up here to a video or a review of Mr. Beer Kit. And if you've never homebrewed before, it is probably the easiest kit out there. Anyway, I've used this product before, and these just base cans, if I don't do anything else to it, will produce beer that is 3.6% alcohol by volume. So I've got a base. I know what I've got here, and so what I want to see with this experiment is what can I get out of this? How much will this boost my ABV, also flavor, body, what have you? Because like I said, these are real easy kits, so pretty much you're going to get what you get out of this can. 3.6% alcohol by volume. So I want to, like I said, we're going to find out what this adds to it, and how we're going to do that is do a gravity check after we get everything into the fermenter. And then after we come back tasting and the beer's bottled and everything's fermented, we could see the difference. Let's say we get to like 4.2% alcohol by volume. We're like, all right, that adds about a 0.5% or so. We know what we're working with. So that's the plan. The way I'm going to go about it is we're going to use about half this box. It's a 15-ounce box, so about 7.5 ounces, roughly half a pound, of the frosted flakes in a gallon of water. And then I'll go into how we'll get this to work real quick, and then we'll add our can of Mr. Beer and pretty much follow the Mr. Beer process the rest of the way. So let me get a gallon of water up to boil, and we'll come back and get our frosted flakes working. Alright gang, so I've got a half gallon of water here. I'm bringing up to a boil. I've measured out our roughly 8 ounces, half pound of our corn flakes. what we're going to do is when this comes to the boil, I'm going to cut the heat, put in our cornflakes, stir them in, and it's going to clump up. It's going to get real thick. And one thing about working with corn, unlike working with barley or rye, if you've ever done any kind of home brewing, is corn does not have the enzymes internally to break down its starches into sugar. If you brew a beer and you used barley, you could heat that grain up, or you can add that grain to hot water around 155 degrees and let it sit there for a little while, and that hot water will kick off the enzymes inside barley to convert the starches that are naturally in there into sugar, and thus we get the sugary goodness that we need to brew a beer with, or give something for the yeast to eat. Well, that doesn't naturally occur in corn. So how we would do this in a home brew setting is, if you had a homebrew shop, they sell something called amylase enzyme, and that kicks off the process in corn. If you don't live near a homebrew shop or don't have access to amylase enzyme, most likely at your local grocery store or pharmacy or wherever, you have something called Beano. Beano helps, if you have digestive issues, whatever. One of the things it has in there is an amylase enzyme that helps break down those starches, what have you. So we're going to use Beano to convert these cornflakes into that sugary goodness we need to brew a beer. But we're not going to do that until we get this down to 155 degrees. So what we're going to do is, this is going to come to a boil. I'll add our cornflakes, and we're doing this for a couple reasons. A, for sanitary purposes, and B, the boiling heat will do something called gelatinization of that corn. It kind of prepares the corn to become converted. When this boils, we'll add the cornflakes in, we'll stir it all in, and we'll cut the heat, and we'll let that drop to 155. At 155, we'll come back, add our Beano, and hold that temperature for roughly 30 minutes or so. And in that 30 minutes, the enzymes will start to work, and we'll start to convert that starch into sugar and get ready to brew. So let me get this up to a boil. I'll add the cornflakes, and we'll come back when it's time to add the Beano. Okay, so we're around 155 degrees. I have broken up a little tablet of Beano, and we're going to go ahead and dump her right in. And I'm going to stir this real quick. This is nice and thick, almost porridge-like. And we're going to let this sit and try to maintain 155 degrees for about 30 minutes. I'm at 9:24, so around 9:55 or so. We will be done. And come back then, and I will strain this off, and then we'll come back to add our can of hopped malt extract and pretty much finish out the rest of the process, like I said, like a regular Mr. Beer Kit. We'll come back when I've got everything in the fermenter, and I'll do a gravity reading, and we'll kind of see where our cornflakes has got us as far as original gravity goes. Alrighty, so I took our liquid, I filtered out the cornflakes, took the remaining liquid, added our hopped malt extract to that. According to Mr. Beer Kit, we'd put in a gallon of cold water in there, and then take that separate, the malt extract and the water left over from the cornflakes, dump it in here, add cold water, get our wort, as we would call it, down to proper pitching temperature. You want to get in the 70s, and added our yeast. I did, before adding the yeast, do a gravity reading, and we got to 1.040. I was slightly disappointed with that number, but did a little research, and I see in some of the nowadays, a lot of the Mr. Beer Kits, along with the can of hopped malt extract, they will come with a half-pound or 8-ounce packet of what they call a booster packet. It's a liquid malt extract. If you're kind of like me, remember the original Mr. Beer Kits, they came with a pack of basically just glorified sugar that was used to bump up the ABV. Anyway, researching those, if you use those kits with the booster packet, they're getting gravities of only 1.045 to 1.050. So we're not too far off with the 8 ounces of corn flakes we use. Now that could be just the sugar from the corn flakes, but we did, projecting it out, we're shooting for about 4% alcohol by volume, so we did bump it up somewhere around a half a point. We'll have to see how it finishes out, but so the corn did give us something. It could be just the sugar, the corn sugar that was on the flakes instead, but we did bump up the ABV a little bit, which is good. These Mr. Beer kits traditionally take about a month before we'll have some to drink. Do a couple weeks in the fermenter, and then you'll bottle. The way these fermenters are set up, they have a little section at the bottom that makes it easier for that yeast to settle, and it gets it below this spigot, so you don't have to worry about transferring over and bottling. Anyway, it makes it real simple. So we're going to do that. Let this ferment for a couple weeks, then we'll bottle, and we'll let those sit for 2 to 3 weeks. We may let them sit, condition at room temperature for a couple weeks, then sit in our fridge for a week or so before we try. But we will come back and try them at our next homebrew tasting video. Well, I hope you liked this video. If you did, please subscribe down below. Also, please like the video because it lets YouTube know we're putting out good content. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave them in the comment section, or you can always contact me on the Twitter page. Till next time, bottoms up.